Hi, my name is Adora Svitak with a commentary for Nail the News. Many of you may have heard about the Republicans' Pledge to America. It's outlining the agenda for 2010, and it's to be used as a campaign tool so that people can see what the agenda is from the Republicans. So to take a look at what a sample of it looks like, then you can just go to pledge.gop.gov. And it starts out sounding pretty good, actually. America is more than a country. America is an idea that free people can govern themselves, that government's powers are derived from the consent of the governed, that each of us is endowed by their Creator with the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. America is the belief that any man or woman can, given economic, political, and religious liberty, advance themselves, their families, and the common good. So this all sounds like stuff that anyone, Democrat or Republican, could probably agree with. America is an awesome country, it's an idea, it's life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, it's stuff out of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, it's what our founding fathers told us, so that is stuff that sounds, reasonable. Well, if you hit download, then you can take a more careful look at the Pledge to America. You'll notice that it's really not a political heavyweight. It's not a couple thousand pages of here's this and this and this. It's a lot of full-color photos of the Statue of Liberty and lots of patriotic images and two-column lines of different policies that they're illustrating. So one of the first ones that caught my eye was we offer a plan to stop out-of-control spending and reduce the size of government. One of the Republicans' biggest issues that has been used as a campaign tool over the years is cutting taxes and reducing government spending. What I have as an issue with this is we've seen how this worked during the Bush years, and our deficit grew and the tax cuts really didn't help things. No, actually we landed into a recession. So we've already seen how that worked, and yet they want to try it again. I would be okay with that except for the fact that really the United States isn't a big testing ground for new political maneuvers. It shouldn't be. And cutting taxes for the richest 2% of Americans, people who make over $250,000, or who are considered rich basically, cutting taxes for them means cutting government spending that would help those who are making less. Unfortunately, by lowering taxes, which would be awesome, most people would think, okay, less taxes, that's great. For rich people, less taxes for rich people means more burden for poor people. That's how I see it. When we cut taxes and we cut government spending, we're also cutting our ability to help those who aren't as privileged as we are. The Republicans seem to be okay with this, though, because they also offer a plan to repeal and replace the government takeover of healthcare with common sense solutions focused on lowering costs and protecting American jobs, not to mention protecting your friends in the big insurance companies. Because after all, lobbyists have lots of money that can go to support your campaigns, and there's nothing better that will help you get elected than having lots of money to spend on ads and robocalls and all that stuff. And where does that money come from? The big insurance companies who pay you lots of money. And what do you do in return for that money? Why don't you just help your business friends out by repealing a bill that might lose them some profits? Sounds nasty, but unfortunately that's how government sometimes works. And in this case, the plan outlined in the Pledge to America to repeal health care, the only people it really helps are if you work in an insurance company. But people who might not have access to health care, people with pre-existing conditions, people who wouldn't be able to afford health care, who are now helped by this bill, suddenly all that would be gone. All that progress would be gone. Another thing in here is a plan to reform Congress and restore trust. I mentioned earlier the kind of cycle with lobbyists and insurance companies and where all that money goes and the result of it. And unfortunately, I think it's really difficult to reform Congress and restore trust when you're playing right into the interests of businesses and lobbyists. As a case in point, John Boehner is the minority leader in the House of Representatives, and he actually established this big fund that all the lobbyists would contribute to. And if you give a lot of money, you have a special line, you have access, you get to attend some meetings. And to me, this is just such an example of how this works. You pay enough money and you get to make decisions. No longer do we need to tell our kids, oh, work hard, study in school, and maybe you could be president, maybe you could help write laws. It's study hard. Maybe your parents have a lot of money and they can get you a position in a company, and maybe you can be a lobbyist, and if you have enough money, then you can get laws written and you can get things passed and you can influence the people in government. You no longer need to have a law degree, or a lot of lobbyists do, but you no longer necessarily need to win the support of the people. You just need to have lots of money. And that's really not what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They didn't write, if you have lots of money, and if you're in the upper class, and if you make over $250,000 a year, then guess what? Hey, you're going to have more influence in government than us average citizens. No, it was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for every single person, no matter whether you made over $250,000 or you lived off welfare. And that's one of the great things about America. That's one of the things that the Pledge to America really threatens. To switch topics from finances, money, lobbyists, all that stuff, another thing that the Pledge to America is a plan to keep our nation secure at home and abroad, that will provide the resources, authority, and support our deployed military, requires fully fund missile defense and enforce sanctions against Iran. We will keep terrorist combatants in Guantanamo Bay, not in our local jails and courtrooms. Our borders are a vital part of our security, so we will act decisively to ensure the federal government fulfills its constitutional duty to protect our citizens and our nation, working closely with our state and local governments. One of the things that I've noticed reading this Pledge to America is it's kind of like a menu. It's really big on adjectives. Fully, vital, decisively, constitutional. There's lots of these descriptive adjectives and action words, but not a whole lot of specificities. For instance, keeping terrorist combatants in Guantanamo. Are you going to try them? Are you going to give them a trial or not? Do you know for sure if they've committed the crimes? Do you know if they're being held in a way that's compatible with the Constitution and our rules for treating prisoners? Do you know that? Really? What about our borders are a vital part of our security, so we will act decisively. What does acting decisively mean? What exactly are you going to do? I want to know this. If I'm casting my vote in a local election and I want to know if immigration is an issue that will really help me decide, I want to know what acting decisively means. Because acting decisively by itself is not necessarily good, because I can act decisively by slapping you in the face. And is that good? Not necessarily. I can act decisively by kicking a computer. And again, not necessarily good. So I really want to hear, what are you going to do decisively? I encourage everybody to read the Pledge to America, download it, look at this stuff. And so if you see in the chapters, there's a foreword, a plan to create jobs, economic uncertainty, make America more competitive, stop out-of-control spending, reduce the size of government, repeal and replace the government takeover of healthcare, reform Congress and restore trust, plan to keep our nation secure at home and abroad. These are things that sound absolutely fine on the surface. But what I think it's so important for each and every one of us to do, not necessarily to say, all these are bad ideas, this is really dumb, but look at each one, go through it each by each, and say, dig deeper. Is this something that they've held up? Is this something which has worked in the past? And I think that reading through the Pledge to America too often, the answer you'll find will be no. Thank you very much.